And this is Globespan 24x7 News. My name is Shakimade coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. President Granger awaits advice from GCOM to name election date. ExxonMobil, Tullow, announces more major offshore discoveries. 23 Guyanese set to return home from devastated Hurricane Bahamas. Autopsy on US-based chef found dead in Kitty set for Wednesday. And Parliament should have been dissolved by now, Ralph Ramkaran. Over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Shamika. And now for a look at regional and international headlines for today, September 16, 2019. The United Nations Secretary General urges multilateral response for Bahamas. Trinidad and Tobago Olympian found dead. Police suspects murder. Guyanese US-based murder accused to be extradited soon. And Russia denies holding UK diplomat spy as pawn. Join me for these details and more on regional and international news in a little while. And now here's Kingsley Bryan with the headlines for sports.
Thanks, Whitney. In sports, Mississauga retains court's 10K road race title. Also, the Warriors continue to dominate CPL's lead award. And the Ghana Teachers Union prepares for another school's athletic championship. Also, finally, Italian TV station fires sports analyst over racist remarks. Back to you, Shakima.
And now for the news. Officials from the Carter Center paid a visit to President David Granger at the State House earlier today, where they held talks about preparations for general and regional elections. During the meeting, the president assured the representatives that he will act decisively on receiving advice from the Guyana Elections Commission as its readiness to conduct general and regional elections, a statement from the Ministry of Presidency said. President Granger was accompanied by Minister of Public Health Faldo Lawrence, Minister of State Dawn Hastings Williams. Meanwhile, the Carter Center was represented by Brett Lacey, Associate Director of Democracy Programs, Carlos Venezuela, Senior Advisor and International Electoral Expert, Annie Malboro, Legal Analyst, and Nicholas Jar, Political Advisor. The Carter Center representatives over the last week have met with Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams, Leader of the Opposition Barrett Jagdeo, and Chair and Commissioners of the Elections Commission. We'll now tell you that following his meeting with officials from the Carter Center, President David Granger has made a public address to the nation, reiterating that he has no hand in general elections. However, he said he is now awaiting a recommendation from the Guyana Elections Commission to name an election date.
While declaring that the Guyana Elections Commission has a constitutional obligation to ensure that everything necessary would be done to deliver credible elections, President David Granger also noted that the election body must maintain its independence and the integrity of the electoral process. According to the Guyanese head of state, he emphasized repeatedly that it is imperative to provide every assistance to the Commission to enable it to conduct credible elections at the earliest possible time. He said his position remains the same.
I have acted expeditiously throughout the year to ensure that credible general and regional elections are held. I consulted the Elections Commission on 2 occasions. I consulted the leader of the opposition on 3 occasions to select a new chairman of the Elections Commission in accordance with the Constitution. I appointed Justice Claudette Singh as chairman of the Election Commission and administered the oath of office to her on the 29th of July. I have full confidence in the chairman's independence, integrity, and impartiality, and her intention and ability to perform the functions of her office in the best interest of the Guyanese people.
The president said his government is assured that the commission is doing everything possible to prepare for this process.
The Elections Commission must be allowed to continue the task of preparing for the forthcoming general and regional elections. The Commission has an obligation to assure the public that it is ready to conduct credible elections and to advise the President of its readiness to do so. I could then dissolve Parliament and issue a proclamation appointing a date on which elections could be held in accordance with the Constitution. It would be reckless and irresponsible on my part to appoint a date for elections without the Commission's advice and assurance that it would be ready to conduct elections on such a date.
The president therefore calls on Guyanese to have confidence in the Elections Commission and urge everyone to uphold the Constitution and respect the decisions by GCOM. A governmental team met with Chairwoman retired Justice Claudette Singh and commissioners of the Elections Commission on September 13 to ascertain its readiness to conduct the elections. Further, a parliamentary opposition team met with the commission also on September 10. GCOM commissioners will meet again tomorrow for the weekly statutory meeting. For Globespan 24x7 News, I'm Samuel Suknandan.
Thank you, Samuel. Former Speaker of the National Assembly Ralph Ramkaran, in his weekly column, The Conversation Tree, posited the need for more clarity on the status of Guyana's parliament after it was widely determined that the no-confidence motion of December 21 was lawfully and validly passed. In the column of September 14, Ramkaran noted that the latest possible time on the most generous interpretation of the CTJ's ruling is that elections should have been held by September 18. But the CCJ did say that elections ought to have been held by March 21 after the passage of the no-confidence motion on December 21. It means that by March 21, no National Assembly ought to have been in existence. It ought to have been dissolved long before the date in preparation for the elections, even after allowing for the later date of September 19, which is coming Wednesday. The National Assembly should have already been dissolved, end of quote. But no word has been forthcoming from either side on the status of the National Assembly and the way forward. Both sides of the aisle seem bent on resolving the issue in the courts. When contacted for a comment on the status of Guyana's 11th Parliament, Opposition Chief Whip Gil Teixeira noted that the party maintains their position that the government is illegal, but did not comment on the status of the National Assembly, citing only that the party's lawyers are dealing with the matter. Calls to the government's chief whip, Minister of Social Protection Amna Ali, went unanswered, but Attorney General Basil Williams has long maintained that the government should convene the National Assembly to have a resolution passed in order that the time be extended for the holding of an election within the earliest time as indicated after the President has consulted with the Guyana Elections Commission. If for any reason the National Assembly does not pass the resolution, or the resolution does not garner the requisite majority for an extension, the President, after consultation with the Guyana Elections Commission, shall dissolve the National Assembly, and general and regional elections shall be held on a date to be fixed by the President under Articles 72 and 61, respectively. But Mr. Ramkaran is insistent that the dissolution of Guyana's parliament occurs in two ways: by proclamation by the President, or automatically 5 years from the date when the Assembly first meets after any dissolution. The President's discretion is absolute only in one respect, that is, if he wishes to call elections before the time is due. The President has no discretion where elections are lawfully due. He or she would normally dissolve the Parliament when elections are lawfully due, but if he or she does not, the Assembly would automatically dissolve at the time set out above. Ramkaran concluded that the situation perpetuates a fraud against the Guyanese people by holding back elections. We'll tell you now that 23 more Guyanese are set to return home to their homeland after the hurricane-ravaged Bahamas, while the first family of 5 arrived in Guyana on Sunday evening, receiving a warm welcome. More in this report.
Stranded Guyanese who are battling the effects of Hurricane Dorian are set to return home soon. More than 23 persons have indicated their interest in returning to their homeland after facing the terrifying effects of the hurricane. Lieutenant Colonel Cresty Craig highlighted that since receiving word of Hurricane Dorian, the Civil Defense Commission CDC activated its response mechanism and are in contact with over 100 Guyanese living in the Bahamas who were affected.
To date, we have a live group that we keep in direct contact with almost 100 persons on a daily basis to identify their needs, to identify if people want to return. And through that mechanism, we're able to identify the 5 persons that came here.
Oren Grimond and his family were all smiles as they arrived in Guyana on Sunday evening after surviving one of the most devastating hurricanes to hit the Caribbean. They were the first set of Guyanese living in the Bahamas to return. The Grimond family was welcomed by Minister of State Don Hastings Williams, Minister of Citizenship Winston Felix, and Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Karen Cummins. Recounting the harrowing ordeal, Grimond relayed to media operatives that he was elated to be home safe with his family.
The experience is horrifying. It's traumatizing to begin with, because as husband and father, I looked at my family, and there's nothing that I could have done to save my family. We were in the ceiling, and the water was rising. You know, it was terrifying, because there's no way to escape this boiling water. You see, and so what we did, we kicked the door out. You know, and there's still no help. There's still no way I could save my family. The only thing I can say, and I can't exclude God out of it, because it was a miracle that happened that day. It was indeed a miracle, because we prayed. So many people in Guyana here were praying because they were watching the storm, and there's no way we could get out of it alive without divine intervention.
The family will be housed at the Guyana Marriott Hotel for 5 days, then transported to Latham by Trans-Guyana Airways, all free of charge. Hurricane Dorian was the most powerful tropical cyclone on record to strike the Bahamas and is regarded as the worst natural disasters in the country's history. Dorian struck the Abaco Islands on September 1 with maximum sustained winds of 185 miles per hour, tying with the Labor Day hurricane of 1935 for the highest winds of an Atlantic hurricane ever recorded at landfall. Dorian went on to strike Grand Bahama at a similar intensity, stalling just north of the territory with unrelenting winds for about 24 hours. The resultant damage to the islands was catastrophic. Most structures were destroyed or swept out to sea, and at least 70,000 people were left homeless. For Globespan 24x7 News, I'm Samuel Siknandan.
Thanks, Samuel. Government will be donating 41.6 million to the Bahamas to aid the country's current disaster tragedy, the Department of Public Information has reported. Minister of State Don Hastings Williams made this announcement during the Rise Bahamas Telethon program aired on the National Communications Network. The televised program was a joint initiative between the Rotary Clubs of Guyana, the Civil Defense Commission, and NCN, aimed at soliciting donations, whether monetary and/or any other form of contribution, to assist Bahamians who are currently fighting for survival after experiencing the massive Hurricane Dorian on September 1. Minister Hastings Williams said that the coalition government is saddened by the massive chaos Dorian has caused upon the country, while assuring that Guyana's government will continue to render support to bring relief speedily to the current situation. I'll tell you now that Guyana's major power supply company, the Guyana Power and Light Inc., is set to introduce smart meters to the general populace next year in an effort to address the increasing demand of prepaid meters. Despite the company battling a few hiccups relating to the frequent power outages, Chief Executive Officer Albert Gordon disclosed that the current prepaid metering systems have become increasingly popular in Guyana. He noted that the new smart meters boast a number of new features.
Infrastructure, which are smart meters, which will allow customers to monitor their supply, but also allow us to monitor their voltage and whether or not they're out. So that will help us. Those meters will be able to provide both prepaid and postpaid capabilities. And we are, in fact, in the process of installing those. And we'll get that system up and running, I'd say, sometime early next year, so customers can benefit from that.
According to the CEO, GPL currently has a customer base of over 200,000 Guyanese, most of which prefer the prepaid meter services over the postpaid. The meters have been unavailable for some time, and Gordon assured that the issue will be immediately rectified. Join us after these messages for more news.
Travelspan is pleased to announce special fares from New York to Guyana for Christmas. Seats are available to travel, and depending on which dates you choose, fares range from $8.49 to $11.69. These are limited block seats on American Airlines non-stop flight from JFK to Guyana. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. Travelspan does have a payment plan, so travel plans, call Travelspan. We would like to ask all of our faithful viewers to kindly like and follow Globespan 24x7 Facebook page and subscribe to Globespan 24x7 YouTube channel to receive up-to-date notifications of when we are live. Globespan 24x7 has vacancies for full-time positions such as reporters, newscasters, and news editors. Persons serious about joining a new and dynamic news team are asked to send their application to careers@globespantechnology.com.
Welcome back. We'll tell you now that United States oil giant ExxonMobil has made an oil discovery on the Stabroek Block offshore Guyana at Triple Tail 1 well in the Turbot area. This well was being drilled by the Tom Madden drill ship. This announcement was made by Director of Department of Energy in the Ministry of Presidency, Dr. Mark Bino, this morning during an oil conference. This discovery adds to the previously announced estimated recoverable resource of more than 6 billion oil equivalent barrels on the Stabroek Block.
Particularly appreciative of the prolific rate at which Guyana has been able to uncover a very valuable resource. These represent the 15th and 16th finds, respectively. What it means for Guyana is that it does demonstrate that the country has substantial oil resources. For the average man, however, it's important to see how these resources will ultimately be translated into social and economic benefits that can transform his or her life. We within the department continues to look to elaborate frameworks which will allow for the efficient management of these resources, not only from an economic standpoint, but also from a socioeconomic as well as an environmental and safety standpoint.
The Triple Tail 1 well is located approximately 3 miles northeast of the Longtail discovery. The well was drilled in 6,572 feet of water and encountered approximately 108 feet of a high-quality oil-bearing sandstone reservoir. On completion of the operations at Triple Tail, the Noble Tom Madden drill ship will next drill at the Uru 1 well, located approximately 6 miles east of the Liza field. With this new find, ExxonMobil is expected to continue to move forward exploration and development activities elsewhere on the Stabroek Block offshore Guyana. The Stena Carron drill ship is currently drilling the Ranger 2 well and upon completion, will conduct a well test at Yellowtail 1. The Bible-Board Douglas drill ship is currently completing development drilling operations for the Liza Phase 1 project. ExxonMobil will add a fourth drill ship, the Noble Don Taylor, in October 2019 as the company continues to optimize its drilling plans based on well results and ongoing study of the basin.
Average rate from discovery to appraisal to development to production is somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 5 years. So again, it's important that we temper expectations because it's not as soon as you discover you move to production. These wells will now have to be appraised in terms of their commerciality, expected projected resource flow, then developed, then before you move into production.
Previously, ExxonMobil announced plans to have at least 5 SPSO vessels on the Stabroek Block, which will produce more than 750,000 barrels of oil per day by 2025. The Liza Phase 1 development is on track to start up by early 2020 and will produce up to 120,000 barrels of oil per day, utilizing the Liza Destiny FPSO. Further, pending government approvals, a third development, the Pariah startup, could be as early as 2023. and production is expected to reach an estimated 220,000 barrels of oil per day. Meanwhile, UK-based Tullow Oil has announced the second discovery of oil in 2 different wells offshore Guyana in less than 6 weeks. The Joe 1 exploration well has successfully opened a new upper territory oil play in the Guyana Basin, says Director, Department of Energy, Dr. Mark Bino. The Joe 1 exploration well was drilled by the Stenafort drill ship to a total depth of 2,175 meters in water depth of 780 meters. The evaluation of logging and sampling data confirms that Joe 1 has encountered 14 meters of net oil pay in high-quality oil-bearing sandstone reservoirs in the upper tertiary age. Meanwhile, the Repsol-operated Carapara 1 well on the Canuco license is scheduled to commence drilling in late September with the Rowan EXL2 jack-up rig and will test the Cretaceous oil play with a result due in the 4th quarter of 2019. We'll tell you now that United States-based company Nalco Champion, which expressed its interest and intention to establish a petrochemical bond to supply oil to ExxonMobil's production operations offshore Guyana, has signaled its intention to move operations outside of Guyana due to the stern restrictions established by the Environmental Protection Agency. Head of the agency, Dr. Vincent Adams, made this discourse on Monday morning, saying that the move was unfortunate.
Well, we received a letter, and unfortunately, on Friday, Nalco has said that they will not, at least initially, they will not operate their facilities, the chemical storage facility in Guyana, at least in the short term.
Dr. Adams added that the agency was informed of this development but stressed that despite the many challenges the company encountered in relation to location and other conditions, the EPA did all they could to facilitate the company.
They requested that they move at the John Finance Wharf in an industrial zone area of Water Street, the John Finance Wharf. We bent over backwards in issuing an interim permit for them to operate there under 3 conditions. And they came back on Friday and said that those conditions are obviously too restrictive, and so they can't operate.
Adams explained that in his view, the measures outlined were not as restrictive and said they included the company being granted an interim 12-month permit to use a location on Water Street near the Demerara River, collaboration with the Guyana Fire Service to respond, and institution of mitigation measures such as a concrete impermeable base for the tanks and a containment area. Nalco had begun construction of its warehouse on land owned by John Fernandez Limited at Houston. However, the EPA and City Hall issued a cease order on works after residents of the community objected to the ongoing works. Adams maintained that no application was formally made by the company for an environmental impact assessment, which is a key requirement of the process.
Is a standard requirement. So the only way that we could have looked and see what the issues are was when the application was made and they submitted all their, whatever they were going to be doing, etc., how they're going to be mitigating, what safety things that they're going to be putting in place, etc. But we could not make an assessment until that happened. It never happened, so we were not part of, we were in the discussion. But I'm not in a position to say what the issues would have been as to whether they qualified to have it in that location or not.
Dr. Adams said the EPA cannot make an assessment without knowing all the risks involved, and this aspect was never completed by the company. Police are awaiting the autopsy of a U.S.-based chef to determine whether foul play was involved in his death. Andrew Gordon's body was discovered in a nude state at his Station Street Kitty Georgetown home on Sunday. According to reports, Gordon, 52, who was slated to return to the U.S. today, was last seen alive on Friday evening. Relatives realized that something was amiss when calls to his phone went unanswered between Friday and Sunday. A friend was asked to check on Gordon. When they arrived at the man's apartment, the door was discovered open, and upon checking, the man's body was found. Investigators disclosed that although the body had no marks of violence, bloodstains were reportedly on his neck. The body was taken to the Lycan Funeral Home while investigations are ongoing. We'll tell you now that Agriculture Minister Noel Holder posited that the first ever Agri-tourism Exposition and Business Forum 2019 is aimed at showcasing Guyana's enterprising agriculture sector along with its attractive tourism industry. These comments were made at the launching ceremony of the expo on Friday last. Minister Holder stressed that the idea has been in the making since 2016 and is aimed at enhancing both sectors.
And business. Agri-tourism offers farmers the possibility of diversifying and generating additional income through on-farm touristic activities in order to help supplement on-farm income and maintain the viability of farms and rural communities.
Holder highlighted that Guyana is already engaged in agri-tourism in the simple things we do, like having a bush cook or getting fruits from the countryside.
In Guyana, agri-tourism is a category that needs to be exploited, to be branded as a unique product from Guyana, not only to attain foreign arrival targets, but also to put more money in the pockets of our farmers and the nation in general. It is a sustainable tourism program that promises a win-win outcome. We are potential in farm-stay tourism. We see potentials there. Culinary tourism and health and wellness tourism, or even a combination of these.
Business Minister Haim Rajkumar in his address spoke of the increased development of both the agriculture and tourism sectors over the years.
It has long been recognized that Guyana has the potential to have a thriving agri-tourism subsector. We know that the agriculture sector plays an important role in the development and economic growth of our country, contributing 30% of our gross domestic product. It has helped to sustain the Guyanese economy for decades, providing employment and bringing foreign exchange to our country. We also know that tourism, the sector, has been making a significant contribution to our economy, bringing 62 billion to our economy in 2018. The growth in arrival has also been significant over the past few years, and we are projecting to receive over 500,000 visitors per year by 2025.
The Agri-tourism Expo and Business Forum is set to be held on the 31st of October to November 2nd, 2019. The expo will feature a display of Guyana's many tourism and agricultural products. We'll tell you now that Assuria General Inc., an up-and-coming insurance provider in Guyana, on Monday stuck to their corporate responsibility by handing over a monetary donation to the Guyana Teachers Union to offset costs attached to the union's observance of World Teachers Day 2019. General Manager of Assuria Companies in Guyana, Yogjindra Arjun, said the donation is made in keeping with the close relationship the company shares with the Teachers Union.
So we would like to make a monetary donation of $500,000 towards this activity in appreciation, one, of the relationship that we have really formulated, and two, of course, towards teachers. In my opinion, always the most important persons we will ever get in contact with.
GTU General Secretary Coretta McDonald, who received the donation on behalf of the union, expressed her gratitude towards the company for their continued appreciation towards the teaching profession. McDonald highlighted that the donation is timely and welcomed it, saying that it will be put to good use.
October 5th, the entire world will be recognizing the contributions made by teachers across this globe. And Guyana is no different. The Guyana Teachers Union this year wants to celebrate its teachers in a more meaningful way. And so with the contribution from Assuria, it would enable us to do what we have to do and to ensure that teachers across this country recognize that they are important and realize how much we value them.
McDonald pointed out that the union has planned an entire week of activities for this year's World Teachers' Day.
Well, it's not only World Teachers' Day on October 5th, which happens to be a Saturday, but it's an entire week of activities. And so we're going to start off on the 29th of September with a grand church service. And then on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be focusing on teachers, male and the female teachers. On Wednesday, there's going to be another symposium. On Thursday, we are going to have a prayer breakfast. And then on Friday, we'll have a symbolic launching we'll have a symbolic ushering in of World Teachers' Day, which is going to be on the Saturday.
The GTU officials said other branches of the GTU also have other activities planned to commemorate the day countrywide. McDonald said the funds received today will be added to an existing pool.
It's going to be placed in a pool where we hope to have reward teachers who performed well at the CSEC, having between 80 to 95% pass rate at CSEC. We want to reward the teachers at the grade 6 level, and generally we want to give a token to almost every teacher across this country.
The General Secretary said the union and teachers as a whole are not without their challenges, but is hoped that adequate and quick redress to the various situations can be found. Now let's take a look at our bridge reports. We'll now take a look at our regional and international news with Whitney Prasad.
Thank you, Shakima. Guyanese murder accused Marcus Bisram has been ordered by the U.S. court to be extradited to Guyana after the courts denied both a rehearing of his appeal arguments and a notion to stay the extradition. It is assumed that Bisram's extradition will begin soon, as according to the timings of the U.S. Secretary of State. The accused currently faces a charge of murder in Guyana, in which he is accused of ordering the fatal beating of Fayaz Narindat, a young father of 2, on the night of October 31st, 2016. Bisram fled to the United States, where he also holds citizenship, in February of 2017, but following an official investigation, Guyana filed a legal request to the U.S. Department of State for Bisram's extradition. In July, Bisram lost an appeal to an order which was made by a district court in New York to extradite him to Guyana. However, his attorneys then filed a petition to have their argument reheard. His rehearing appeal was denied last month. Bisram's attorney on his behalf then filed a notion to stay the mandate for the extradition, and this was denied last week. And the Guyana Alliance for Change leader Kemraj Ramjatan on Sunday met with members of the party's New York chapter to discuss the current political situation in Guyana. The minister was met by protesters at the meeting's venue, who without hesitation shouted out, "We want elections now." The protesters called on the current coalition government to adhere to the CCJ ruling based on the no-confidence motion on December 21st of 2018. General and regional elections have not been held in accordance with constitutional dictates, as government had not accepted in defeat and had moved to challenge the notion in court. Meanwhile, the fundraiser organized by a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change, the Alliance for Change coalition government in New York, was proven to be successful despite an earlier run-in with the protesters. The event was held on Atlantic Avenue in Richmond Hill, New York on Sunday and featured key party members including the Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan and the Mayor of Georgetown, Ubraj Narain. And now for a look at news in the region. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a multilateral response to foot the losses in the Bahamas following the devastating Category 5 Hurricane Dorian on September 1st of 2019. The Secretary General, who delivered the charge on Friday during a visit to the Bahamas, expressed international solidarity with the government and people of the island's nation. The UN chief stated that in some areas more than 3/4 of all buildings have been destroyed, hospitals in ruins or overwhelmed, schools turned into rubble. He said thousands of people will continue to need the help with food, water, and shelter, and many more facing the uncertainties of the future after having lost everything. Mr. Guterres noted that the climate crisis has generated turbocharged hurricanes and storms, which are occurring with greater intensity and frequency. And without urgent action, climate disruption will only get worse, packing what he described as a triple punch of injustice. While the financial cost of Hurricane Dorian has not yet been determined, Mr. Guterres estimated it will be in the billions of dollars. Taking a look at news in Trinidad and Tobago. Police in Trinidad and Tobago suspects that Special Olympics athlete Sean Gibson, 34, has been murdered. His body was discovered at the back of a woodland vegetable stall along M2 Link Road on Saturday morning by the owner of the stall, who came to set up his place for business at 8:10 a.m. According to the report, the face of the gold medalist and former football captain appeared to have been bashed in. Sister of the man said that the family is deeply saddened by the man's death. Gibson's sister said that she is unaware of any enemies that would want to end his life in such a gruesome way. Two of his coaches, Clarence Shepard and Davin Mahadio, both agreed that Sean was a gem and a leader. An investigation has since been launched. Turning our attention to news in the United Kingdom, the Kremlin has denied it is holding British national Paul Whelan as collateral for a diplomatic trade. Response to a statement made by British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt, which warned Russia against using Mr. Whelan as a diplomatic pawn. Vladimir Putin's official spokesperson Dmitry Peskov insisted Russia was driven only by reason of international security. Peskov, in a statement, said that Russia has never used people as pawns in diplomatic games, but rather the country do counter-espionage activities directed against people suspected of same. The Kremlin spokesperson said he had no comment to make on the possibility of a swap with the Russian national Maria Butin. Ms. Butin pleaded guilty to conspiring to act as foreign agent in the United States in mid-December. Meanwhile, West African leaders have pledged $1 billion over 5 years, starting in 2020, to combat Islamist militancy in the region, but some are skeptical that it would lead to improved security. Initial media reports suggest that half of the money could come from the West African Economic and Monetary Union, a grouping of the region's French-speaking countries, and Guinea-Bissau. The other half could come directly from members of the West African Regional Body, ECOWAS, along with a few others. But it is unclear how much each country would contribute to fund and whether they will look for donors from outside the region. In the past 4 years, there have been 2,200 attacks by various militant groups in the region, which have left 11,500 dead and millions of people displaced. At least 12 people have died and more than 20 are missing after a tourist boat capsized in a river in India. The boat was carrying around 70 people and was on its way to a popular tourist spot in southern state on Sunday when it collided with a large rock, police say. Officials confirmed to the BBC that 27 people have been safely evacuated. Rescue authorities are searching for bodies in the water, while survivors have spoken of their shock and grief. The state's Chief Minister, Jagan Mohan Reddy, has directed officials to suspend all boating services in the region immediately. And police in Hong Kong have used water cannon and tear gas against protesters throwing petrol bombs and bricks near government offices in the city. The violence broke out after thousands of pro-democracy demonstrators marched, despite being denied a police permit. Scuffles also broke out later between rival protesters around the city. Earlier, hundreds rallied outside the British consulate, demanding the UK press China to maintain freedom guaranteed during the 1997 handover. The months of unrest were sparked by a proposed extradition bill, which would have made it possible for people in Hong Kong to be extradited to mainland China. Critics said they could have faced human rights abuse. The bill was at first shelved and the government announced it would withdraw it completely, but that has failed to stem protester anger. They are calling for full democracy and an investigation into allegations of police brutality, among other demands. And finally, United States 2020 presidential frontrunner Joe Biden has confused the South American country of Guyana for the African nation of Ghana while speaking at a campaign event. Biden, 76, joined Adam Sexton of WMUR in Manchester, New Hampshire for a town hall in the network's latest installment of Conversation with the Candidate, which was aired on Thursday last. Terrence Jennerine, a Guyanese-born U.S. citizen, told his story of how hard he worked to attain his American citizenship and further questioned Biden on what he plans to do as president of this great nation if he retains office in 2020. In his response to the question, Biden confused Guyana with Ghana, stating that I have been to Ghana, I've been all through Africa, and one of the things everybody has to remember is that we have led the world not just by example of power, but the power of our example. Since entering the race months ago, Biden has consistently made mistakes while campaigning recently. He misspoke while retelling the story of a war hero, the dates of assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr., while also claiming he was still vice president during the majority Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, despite him having been out of office. Earlier this week, a member of the former vice president's inner circle criticized the media coverage on his campaign, arguing, I don't know of anybody who was taken as sustained as a negative pounding as Biden. And that's all for news in the region and internationally. Thanks for watching. Back to our studio in Guyana.
Thanks, Whitney. We'll now take a quick commercial break and stay tuned for more news.
We would like to ask all of our faithful viewers to kindly like and follow Globespan 24x7 Facebook page and subscribe to Globespan 24x7 YouTube channel to receive up-to-date notifications of when we are live. Globespan 24x7 has vacancies for full-time positions such as reporters, newscasters, and news editors. Persons serious about joining a new and dynamic news team are asked to send their application to careers@globespantechnology.com.
Amro's Travel Service is pleased to support Globespan 24x7 broadcasts. We provide travel solutions via our 4 locations in Trinidad. Chaguanas at 665-3383, Valpa 645-1604, Port of Spain 625-0800, and San Fernando at 652-4789. Remember, when you travel, Amro's is the way to go.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. We'll now take a look at what's happening in sport with Kingsley Bryan.
And here's what's happening in sports. General Secretary of the Ghana Teachers Union, Coretta McDonald, on Monday disclosed that the union's preparations for the annual school sports are well underway and with a calendar of events in the pipeline. The union is anticipating a smooth flow of activities and enhanced sportsmanship.
Nationals this year is scheduled for the 17th to the 23rd of November. So far, we have had a couple of meetings where we were able to iron out some of the issues we had last year, hoping that they are not going to show their ugly faces again this year, and those are the hiccups. But we expect to have a very successful Nationals this year.
The GTU General Secretary was at the time speaking at a simple handing over ceremony at Astoria Insurance main office in Georgetown. McDonald said it is the hope of the union that the shortcomings and hiccups from past events won't affect this year's activities.
And we're hoping that our regions are going to be on board in terms of preparing the athletes for the events that they're coming there to do. Very often we have regions coming out with shortage of funding, and because of the shortage of finances, you have meals late, meals not adequate, and the travel that our athletes and our teachers have to do, especially those coming from regions 9, regions 8, and so on, the journey that they have to travel on or travel through, getting to Georgetown is sometimes very fatiguing. And so we're advocating that our athletes coming from regions 1, 8, 9, 7, that the region ensure that these athletes are here at least a day before.
The synthetic track will be the location for the annual event, but apart from that, there has been one change to this year's event.
There's one change that we're proposing this year, and that is to have the road and the cycle races. We're going to be using the Linden Highway because we've had lots and lots of congestions in Region 3 on the East Coast, and it doesn't all go well for our athletes, and we want to ensure that the safety of our athletes and our teachers and the other officials, we want to make that a priority. So we're going to be using, we have proposed to use the Linden Soosdijk Highway for our cycle and the road races this year.
And Winston Misaka at the weekend successfully defended his title of champion in the court's 10K road race on Sunday. The race got underway at 6 hours at Courts Gan Inc. Main Street, Georgetown office and saw over 100 persons registered to participate. The 27-year-old finished the race in a time of 33 minutes, 29 seconds, over a minute faster than his training partner, Nathaniel Giddens, who finished second at 34 minutes, 54 seconds. This year's competition saw the absence of 7-time winner Cleveland Ford, who did not participate in this year's event. Odwin Tudor of the Ghana Defense Force came in third with a time of 35 minutes, 16 seconds. Tudor was followed by Cleveland Thomas in 35 minutes, 25 seconds. Ricky Williams in 35 minutes, 48 seconds. And Marlon Nicholson at 36 minutes, 40 seconds. And he finished third, fourth, and fifth respectively in the men's open category. In the women's open category, 18-year-old Shiama Terrell won an impressive time of 42 minutes, 13 seconds. Terrell was followed in second position by Abidemi Charles, who finished at 42 minutes, 16 seconds. Kisana Glenn in third with a time of 43 minutes, 1 second. Aliyah Moore fourth with a time of 43 minutes, 11 seconds. And Ashanti Scott finished in the fifth position at 46 minutes. The winners of the open male and female categories each received $100,000, while the immediate runners-up took home $80,000, $60,000, $40,000, $20,000, and $10,000 respectively. The junior athletes received vouchers for their school supplies. The customary Golden Mile for youths along the 3K race for Courts Ghana Inc. staff was also part of this year's event. And turning to CPL action, the Ghana Amazon Warriors continued their impressive showing in the 2019 Hero CPL tournament after imperiling the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots to a trial by spin in their own country at Warner Park. The Warriors and Knight Riders have both now won all 4 from their 4 matches after what appeared to be a smooth sailing 7-wicket victory for the Amazon Warriors. Imran Tahir and Kais Ahmad, with their impressive innings of 17 runs, 2 overs, 2 wickets, and 3 wickets for just 28 runs, respectively led a 4-man spin attack for the Warriors that reduced the Patriots to 53 for 5. After amassing a low total of 121, the Warriors went on to attack with 49 runs just off 24 balls from Brandon King at the top of the Warriors' chase. The start of the game was delayed by a brief rain shower. And internationally, an Italian television station says it will not use one of its pundits again after he made a racist comment about Inter Milan striker Romelu Lukaku. Speaking on Top Calcio 24, Luciano Passirani at that instance said, if you go one-on-one with him, he will murder you. The only way to come up against him is maybe giving him a banana or 10 to eat, unquote. Program Director Fabio Ravazani said, despite Passirani's immediate apologies, that he could no longer participate in the broadcast. Lukaku, who moved from Manchester United to Inter in the summer, helped his side to a 1-0 win against Guyanese on Saturday. Ravanesi added that Mr. Passirani is 80 years old, and to compliment Lukaku, he used a metaphor that turned out to be racist. He continued that, I think it was a terrible lack of momentary lucidity. I cannot tolerate any kind of errors, even if momentary. End of quote. Lukaku was recently subjected to monkey chants by Cagliari fans when he scored a penalty for his side in a 2-1 victory. Afterwards, the Belgium international said the abuse showed the game was going backwards. And that has brought us to the end of our sports update for today, Monday, September 16. Back to you, Shakima.
Thank you, Kingsley. And that has brought us to the end of today's news. Before you go, here's a recap of our major headlines. President Granger awaits advice from GCOM to name election state. ExxonMobil, Tullow, announces more major offshore discoveries. 23 Guyanese set to return home from hurricane-devastated Bahamas. Autopsy on US-based chef found dead in Kitty set for Wednesday. And Parliament should have been dissolved by now, Ralph Ramkaran. Thank you for watching Globespan 24x7 News. On behalf of myself, Shakima Day, the news and technical team, until next time, do have a great evening.